Welcome! I want to address the social and mythological history of the Calabar region, to explore how Nsìbìdì signs reveal a philosophy of life that includes all in the community. And in this part of the world, the community includes the living, the ancestors, and the very land itself. I intend to provoke thought and to create a platform for further research into this remarkably rich zone of West Africa. The Cross River area of Nigeria and Cameroon is famous for its old and indigenous Nsìbìdì script of ideograms, as well as for the Efik elites of the Atlantic port of Calabar, who managed the Ekpe Leopard Society as a legal system, and who have been proficient in alphabetic English since the 1700s. In other words, two forms of writing have been coexisting in the region for centuries, making Calabar heritage very rich indeed. Then, 200 years ago, forced migrants from Calabar landed in Cuba, where they recreated Ekpe and further developed Nsìbìdì communication, where it remains active and expanding. Oje, oje, oje bap mbe. Oje, 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 koritonko. Oje, 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 efe sabo. Oje, bap efut, bap kwa, bap okoyon. Oje, 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 bap isangele, bap mamfe. Oje, 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 bap abakwa. Oje, oje, baptibo. Four aspects of Nsìbìdì are seen here. Upper left, signs of fertility are painted on girls in a new yam harvest festival in Yakur local government area. Lower left, an Ukara cloth in Cross River State displays codes of the Ekpe Society. Lower right, a board in the Calabar hinterlands is used to teach Ekpe Nsìbìdì to students. Upper right, a manuscript page in Cuba with Nsìbìdì signs used in ceremonies has interpretations in the Roman alphabet. Nsìbìdì is a communication art that includes scripts and codes which can be drawn or gestured, drummed, and chanted. Nsìbìdì is majestically displayed during the performance of Ekpe body masks, each category of costume having specific designs and paraphernalia that are performed with gestures to specific rhythms. This drawing of Idum Nkanda, an Ekpe mask, is covered with Ukara cloth. Each part of its body has a message, making the mask a collection of Nsìbìdì codes. First, I must acknowledge important teachers from Calabar whose thinking has been transformative. Professor Escor Toyo of the Department of Economics at UNICAL and an Ekpe title holder from Oron thought deeply about Nsìbìdì. He theorized that Nsìbìdì emerged as a sign language created by hunters in the distant past. Remaining in the forest for long periods, they developed a signed communication to hunt their prey. Another great teacher, engineer B.E. Bassi, wrote several books about Ekpe, heritage, and its contribution to humanity. He argued that Nsìbìdì codes are part of a universal heritage, parallel to the teachings of Moses with the Ten Commandments, or the Vedic principles of ancient India. Bassi taught that the signs painted on the bodies of initiates are activating forces that connect the initiate with the energies of the cosmos. Here he illustrates how each sign on the body corresponds to a grade of the Ekpe Society. He went further to suggest that each grade corresponds to a different teaching or revelation on a spiritual journey. in turn connected to a planetary body. But this level of information is available only to those who emerge through rites of passage, learn from their elders, and then contemplate through meditation. But the spirituality of Ekpe codes is grounded in the Calabar environment itself, the setting from whence Nsìbìdì emerged. The ancients studied the signs of nature and used them as teaching tools. For example, diker skins with white lines or spots are displayed on the thrones of power mounts in Ijagam communities. Here, the Ndem of the Quas. French anthropologist Lévi-Strauss once remarked, quote, "As for animals with certain markings, it is believed that they are visible signs of an exceptionally powerful spiritual activity," unquote. The throne of the paramount of Mbakara has two diker skins with Nsìbìdì-like symbols that suggest the paramount was blessed by Mother Nature to sit on the throne. At right, a Cuban Ekpe altar evokes this practice by featuring a goat skin with a lodge seal emblazoned on it. In the Cross River area, the diker skins are used on drums, so that vibrations from the divine animals are projected out to connect the group with the sacred forest environment. A crocodile has designs on its body that Cuban elders taught me was the source of Nsìbìdì. In the Icom region, one still finds crocodile skin drumheads, as we see here. To drive this point home, here a tortoise is juxtaposed with the Cuban sign of Equeñón. In Calabar, Ekpeñón, a name connected to the Ndem nature deity that brings prosperity and protection. Nsìbìdì signs mark these terracotta pot bases, at least 5 centuries old. They were found in Calabar municipality. At left, a horizontal line describes water level, with 2 eyes below and 2 above. Cuban Abaquois understand this as the spirit below the water and the living above it, who are in conversation. This dried gourd bowl in Acampa local government area, with engraved Nsìbìdì signs, holds chalk used to mark the bodies of initiates. Many of these fragile objects were destroyed during the Civil War from 1967 to 70, and they are rarely seen today. Nevertheless, royal sons and daughters continue to be initiated using the bowls to hold white kaolin representing the river and peace, illustrated by the 2 eyes below the river line we just saw, and the red chalk representing the power of Ekpe, illustrated by the 2 eyes above the waterline. Nsìbìdì signs were also drawn on girls and young maidens in the Nkugo fatten room process, as documented in Oban in the early 1900s by District Officer Amari Talbot. This begs the question, what is the relationship between women and Nsìbìdì signs? During the Nkugo training for young women, they learn to decorate wooden objects like this fan and this lamellophone, known as Ndido in Efik and Ibibio. It's no longer played in Calabar, but it remains central to Cuban Abaquois tradition. Just as all that glitters is not gold, all that is displayed is not Nsìbìdì. These objects are decorated with floral patterns, not Nsìbìdì codes. Nevertheless, in many rural communities, women are those who paint Nsìbìdì on bodies during harvest festivals and even inside Ekpe halls. Here, an elder woman uses natural dyes to paint female bodies of all ages during a New Yam festival in Yakor. The signs evoke fertility and abundance. In the same community, an Iyamba makes the sign of a leopard during an initiation. At right, he sits in the hall where women specialists have drawn signs of his rank. During a harvest festival, a woman's dance group displays signs around their belly buttons, emphasizing their power as life givers. This close-up of one woman's belly features a radiating sun icon. The same idea is conveyed by Calabar Abang dancers, whose central figure is shaped like a terracotta pot, in itself a cosmogram showing women as life givers. But in this case, a red plumed rod called basonko projects vertically from her headpiece, while her attendants have white kaolin designs on their foreheads and dainty bells on their shins, corresponding to the Ebonko mask of Ekpe, which we see at the far right. Another version of Abang is displayed by the first daughter of an Ekpe title holder in Calabar. The farthingale or circle around her waist makes her belly the center of a cosmogram, representing birth and the cycle of eternity. Notice the red basonko plume emerging vertically from her headpiece. Matrons of Calabar families hold staffs, while an Abang dancer displays codes central to the Ekpe society. This is a bold assertion that women played a role in the birth of Ekpe. In Isangale, Cameroon, which the Cubans know as Usagare, women perform their equivalent of the Abang dance of ethics or Moninkim of the Jagam speakers. The lead dancer is protected by sword bearers and mirrors with kaolin signs, which act as protective devices and also represent the surface of the river. Her red basonko plumed rod evokes the vitality of Ekpe. The claim of these codes that women participated in the birth of Ekpe seems to be confirmed in Ebonko Ekpe performance, where Ekomo Epri, small drums, reflect the crosses on the mirror of the woman's dance. The Ebonko grade presents the feminine aspect of Ekpe and is accompanied by Isom Ekpe, leopard tail masks, who hunt the mystic leopard. In this performance at a funerary rite, the mask interacts with a hoop representing the entirety of life. The mask points at its center to signal the act of creation, a variant of the cross mark on both the mirror and the drum we just saw. Here, an Ndem dance troupe shows the mermaid on her throne at far right. Her attendants' faces are marked with kaolin designs. They hold a brass staff of royalty and a mirror with symbols from the watery realm. See the dainty bells on their shins corresponding to the Ebonko Ekpe mask. The white kaolin marks for peace and prosperity are represented on this massive ukara cloth presented by James Agassi, its maker. The cloth itself could be interpreted as the top of a river, with all the creatures of Ndem and Ekpe spiritually simmering under and above the water. The centuries-old and powerful traditions of Nsìbìdì in Calabar and Cameroon were extended into the Caribbean 2 centuries ago. Here, a Cuban lodge seal displays key Nsìbìdì. One sees the Ekpe canoe above the waterline and the Ayamba position below it, repeating the same basic design of the early Calabar terracotta. To conclude, I have offered 3 perspectives on the sources of Nsìbìdì codes of the Calabar region. 1. They emerge from the silent communications of early hunters in the forest, as suggested by a materialist atheist professor who was an Ekpe title holder. 2. They represent teachings of the Creator, bestowed upon Cross Riverians 3,000 years ago, according to a British-trained Calabar mystic who authored several books on Ekpe. Engineer Bassi argued that Ekpe and Nsìbìdì are part of the universal teachings of humankind, like those of Moses with the Ten Commandments or the Vedic principles of ancient India. 3. The science first emerged from the water or estuaries of the Calabar region through the teachings of Ndem, the deity who defends and brings wealth to communities who acknowledge her existence, according to a Creektown cultural specialist. In this narrative, young girls from founding families use Nsìbìdì codes during their rites of passage into mothers, because Ndem is beseeched to protect them. Meanwhile, Nsìbìdì was developed into a mystic art by members of the Ekpe society, who know that Ekpe ultimately also comes from Ndem, itself a code from Mother Nature. The bigger picture is then that humans must give homage to and coexist with nature if we are to survive on spaceship planet Earth. Oje, 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 bap mbe, baptibo, baptibo.